Will there be a Gear 6? During the latter part of the Wano arc, we saw that Kaido seemingly killed Luffy. This was even confirmed by Oda, and even Kaido himself declared to everyone that he had indeed killed Luffy. This was also confirmed by Momonosuke and Trafalgar Law. It was actually Luffy's death that triggered the awakening of his devil fruit, which eventually became Gear 5. What's even more interesting here is that Luffy's devil fruit was revealed to be not just a simple paramecia, but a mythical Zoan, specifically the human fruit model, Nika. This means his awakening didn't just boost his power, but also gave him a completely new nature and fighting style. In Luffy's fight against Kaido using Gear 5, Luffy himself claimed that this is already his peak. In other words, this is his ultimate form. So, to answer the question of whether there will be a Gear 6, the simple answer is no. Now, if Gear 5 is already his limit and he won't unlock a new gear anymore, does that mean Luffy won't get any more power-ups? The answer is no. I agree that Luffy may not gain a new gear form, but I don't believe that he won't get any stronger. In this video, we will discuss the power-up that Luffy might gain from his devil fruit in the Final Saga, especially now that the story is entering its endgame where enemies like the Gorosei and Emu exist. So if everything is clear and you're ready, let's begin this topic. If you notice, in every upgrade of Luffy's gears, there is always a weakness. In other words, Luffy shows a new upgrade, but Oda always adds a but. This balance is what keeps Luffy's fights intense and strategic instead of being one-sided. Take Gear 2 for example. When we first saw it, we were amazed. It made Luffy incredibly fast and boosted his attacks. But what was its weakness? It reduced Luffy's lifespan because it pushed his body beyond normal limits. So how did Luffy solve this? He started using Gear 2 only on specific parts of his body, like his arms or his legs when he needs speed. In short, he learned how to focus Gear 2 on certain body parts to reduce the strain on his lifespan. This shows Luffy's growth not just in power, but in battle intelligence. Next is Gear 3. If Gear 2 enhances speed, Gear 3 enhances physical power. Luffy inflates his bones, making parts of his body bigger, like his arms, legs, or even his whole body, resulting in stronger attacks. But its weakness is that after using it, Luffy shrinks drastically, making him vulnerable. So how did he solve this? Through armament haki. Luffy realized that if he coats the enlarged body part with armament haki, he won't shrink anymore. This was one of the first clear signs of how important haki would become in the new world. Next is Gear 4. When we first saw it, we were amazed because of its powerful and visually impressive form. Its attacks are also much stronger, combining elasticity with haki, but later on, its weakness was revealed. After using Gear 4, Luffy cannot use haki for 10 minutes. This is extremely dangerous in high-level fights where haki is essential. At first, this made us wonder, what if Luffy is in the middle of a fight and suddenly loses Gear 4? Does that mean he has to run away for 10 minutes? Yes, that's exactly what he did in his fight against Katakuri. He ran away until his haki recovered. So this was a huge weakness despite how powerful the gear is. It also showed that even top-tier fighters must manage stamina and timing. So how did Luffy solve this? In the elbaf arc, Luffy showed us the answer. Just like Gear 2 and Gear 3, which he mastered so well that he learned how to minimize their weaknesses by using them on specific body parts, he did the same with Gear 4. If you remember in Chapter 1129, when Luffy was about to destroy the wall of Rhodes Castle, he used Gear 4 specifically on his arm. The shape of his hand looked similar to his Boundman form, meaning this is the solution. This suggests that Luffy is evolving beyond full transformations into more controlled and efficient usage. If we follow this pattern, then you probably already know the answer for Gear 5 and what kind of power-up Luffy will gain from it. Gear 5 is extremely powerful. Luffy can do almost anything in this form, even producing objects, manipulating his surroundings, and fighting with complete freedom. This ability is often described as the most ridiculous power in the world, but its major weakness is the heavy drain on his body. After using it, Luffy becomes completely exhausted and aged-looking, which is very risky in prolonged battles. So applying the same logic from Gear 2, 3, and 4, I believe that once Luffy fully masters Gear 5, he will be able to activate it on specific parts of his body only. For example, if he wants to produce something, he can just transform his hands into Gear 5 and create whatever he wants, similar to the techniques he uses in his full Gear 5 form. This would drastically reduce stamina consumption and allow him to fight longer against top-tier enemies. Now, what would a mastered version of Gear 5 look like? Like the previous gears, Luffy might still remain in his base form. The difference is that we'll see the traits of Gear 5 within his body. The ridiculous and cartoonish nature of Gear 5 might still be visible even in this base form, but more controlled and refined. The indication of this pseudo-transformation could be things like glowing or red eyes, faster heartbeat, like the drums of liberation, and clouds surrounding his head, similar to awakened Zoan users. Recently, Oda has also been giving clues that awakened Zoan Devil Fruit users can transform into more than just one hybrid form. They can actually have multiple hybrid forms, which is something we didn't fully understand before. We saw this with St. Gillingham in Elbaf. At first, his upper body had the traits of his devil fruit while his lower body remained human. But later, he transformed again. This time, his lower body had the devil fruit traits while his upper body became human. So it's exciting to think, does Luffy also have another hybrid form? Or is his current Gear 5 transformation just his hybrid form? If that's the case, then there's a huge possibility that Luffy hasn't even shown his true full Zoan form yet. Meaning, what we're seeing now might not be his final evolution. Will we eventually see the true Sun God Nika in full form? A more divine or warrior-like version of Luffy, possibly inspired by ancient legends. There are even theories that this full form could resemble the original Joy Boy, or a godlike warrior who fought during the Void Century, possibly with weapons like a spear or sword, as hinted in some lore. Anyway, what do you think? Do you agree that Luffy's current form is just a hybrid and that he has a full Sun God Nika form? If you have thoughts or ideas, don't hesitate to comment them below so we can discuss. And if you like today's topic, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel a lot. That's all for today.